thank you all for being here. We are so excited for this panel, which we had last year. We have all new guests this year, but this is next steps from a short to a feature series. I'm Imani, founder and lead programmer. Hello. And I'm excited to be moderating this again after last year. It's always just like a really cool full circle conversation to have at the fest. So yes, thank you all for joining. We're going to start with some moderated questions with our guests. And then we'll have some time for an audience Q&A. If you do have a question, when we do that, we'll have a microphone over here. So don't be shy. You can go and ask your questions to the panelists. Turn off those cell phones. And then after the panel, we'll just want everyone to exit out to the lobby so we can turn over the theater for the next thing. And just a heads up that this is being recorded and photographed. Awesome. So now to introduce our panelists, we have some amazing folks that we're super excited to talk to and get some of their journey. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. We have Morgan Cooper here, who talk about Bel Air. We have Danny Maden here, talk about Beast and Krista. We have Karen Maine here to talk about Yes, God, Yes.
Should we sit in order? Or can we switch it up?
Whatever you want, Danny.
I'm gonna sit right here. We're gonna go boy, girl.
And then we have Katie Dávila. Yes, here to talk about emergency. Thank you all for being here. We're so excited.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into it. So I just introduced y'all and like the titles that you're probably going to talk about today. What initially drew everyone to kind of like tell their story as a shorter version of like what it turned into? Was it a creative decision, practical? How did that kind of like help you? Let's start with
me.
Kate.
So I think I was drawn to making shorts because I started out as a screenwriter. I'm now a writer-director, but like I started out as a screenwriter, and I think that I don't know about all the screenwriters in the audience, but there is a point at which when you are a screenwriter, you get tired of making things that just sit in someone's drawer forever. Like it's a blueprint for a project, it's not a finished product. So I was drawn to making shorts just because I was like, I want to make stuff. I came here to make stuff, not to just write things that sit in a drawer. So I applied actually to Film Independent's Project Involved program, and you make a short during the program. And so Emergency was the short that we made in that program, and that ended up being a feature. But like we really thought of it as we just wanted to make the best short we could. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We did not intend it to be a feature.
For sure. We're gonna get into that of like what happened next. But yes, Danny.
Hey guys, I'm Danny. Thanks for coming. There's so many people here. It's awesome. Can I just so I know who I'm talking to here, can you like raise your hand if you are a filmmaker and you're somewhere on the journey here? Hell yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. That's great. Yeah, so my brother Will Maden, who's in the audience somewhere, is a great actor, and he moved to Los Angeles like 5 or 6 years ago, and we were like, all right, let's make something, and so we wrote this short film together, and again, also did not intend it as a feature film. We just wanted to make a great short, and I think that was something that really benefited us because it wasn't purely like a means to an end thing. It was like, hey, how do we make like the best 9.5-minute thing we can, you know, and then. When it came time to like try and grow ourselves into something longer form, we sort of had the DNA built from that short film and then tried to apply it into something longer. So.
Totally. Karen.
Hi, Karen here. I had a very similar experience to Katie. I started as a screenwriter. I co-wrote the short film Obvious Child and the feature Obvious Child, which was sort of my introduction, into this, thanks everybody, into this wild journey, which is also a short to feature
Yes.
proof as
You
well.
talk about that one too.
But after that, I wrote my own feature sort of about my upbringing, and I think this probably isn't the norm, but I had the feature script first and tried to find a director for it, and someone I approached was like, this is sort of based on your life, you should direct it, and it wasn't something that I'd really considered because I didn't go to film school. And so I then made a short as proof of concept that I could direct. So that's sort of how I started out.
Awesome. Morgan.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Morgan. My short film journey, I suppose, started in 2016. I was at the time actually I was working as a cinematographer shooting commercials, and the narrative material that I was receiving just wasn't really connecting with me. The themes that were explored in some of that writing, and so I decided to kind of bang out a little short film, and a Pages document. Actually, I didn't even have like final draft. But I took the money I was making from commercials and just put it into that short and spent about $5,000 on it, and it was okay. It's decent. It was about a sound guy. It's called Room Tone, and I really caught the short bug from there. And so as I was building my cinematography career, I was kind of moonlighting as like a writer director and just shooting my own stuff. And one of those ideas was a concept called Bel Air, and I was in my hometown, Kansas City, and I like drove under this overpass, and the idea hit me to reimagine, the sitcom as a drama, and we shot it in 4 days, and the rest that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Did anything like pop in your head when you were thinking about it? Of like, oh, is anyone gonna care about like rights or anything?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, because like I knew the idea was, I knew it was special. It's like I don't even really like, I'm not into like reboots or reimaginings, honestly. Even I sometimes sit there and I tell people like I would never think to do that right now in my life. Like I was 24 when that was very much like a 24-year-old guy's idea. If I'm being honest, but I'm thankful it's been a successful show, and I love the show and I love what we've been able to do. But at the time, honestly, I was just like, I didn't really I didn't care. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Honestly, it's like I was just at that point in my life and career where I was finding success as a cinematographer. I was making money. It's like, I just wanted to make this, and I had pure intentions behind it. It wasn't to like, deface this iconic sitcom. It was just to make something I thought was fly and interesting, and decided to do it. And Will called me, a day after we dropped the trailer on YouTube in 2019, and Will's company reached out, and I was in Calabasas the next day, and he was like on FaceTime. He was shooting Bad Boys 3. And he was like, what do you want to do? And I pitched him the vision to adapt into a 1-hour drama. And then 2 weeks later, I was in Miami developing the show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
On FaceTime, pitching. Love it. Amazing. Katie.
Wait, I gotta ask. Sorry, did he
You
just
gotta
cold call you, or did you know he was gonna call?
Well, his manager, Miguel, reached out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he said, Will, love the short you made, and he would love to talk to you about it. And so I go to Calabasas, and he was on FaceTime. He was down in Miami. Cool. So, yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So how did kind of like feedback from the short version maybe like lend itself to your process and expanding things once you all were like, okay, this is it. We're gonna go. And Katie would also love to hear about what kind of led you to expanding it in the first place, since it wasn't something you were thinking about.
Yeah. So with Emergency, the short film, we did it in it was like 2017. It was 2017 we shot it, and then 2018 we went on the festival circuit, and it was it was a dark comedy thriller about the way that the relationships between communities of color and the police, and it was like a comedy as well, these things don't usually. I feel like we were so uncertain of how it would be received, and then it ended up getting into a ton of festivals. We were like, "Whoa, okay." We were just. It felt like it was the right place at the right time. Weirdly, I think that. So we got into Sundance, we got into South by Southwest, we got into a bunch of other festivals, and we were like happy to be there. We were like, "Ooh, we're here, we made it." And then I remember we were at Sundance, and I was like, it was so cold, and I was like, I'm ready to go home. I'm so tired. And we got invited to the award ceremony, and I had I was like so checked. I was like, we did it, guys. We're done. And I wore there are pictures of me on we won an award I did not expect to win an award. And so there were pictures of me like wearing just the shittiest outfit you can imagine. Like we were like, yay. But that's just me. Believe in yourself, I guess. But yeah, like we did not expect to win awards. We won like basically real like awards at Sundance and South by Southwest, and then suddenly people were asking us, "Where's the feature?" Like as if we had already thought of it. And it was funny because. So Carrie, who was the director, I wrote and I helped produce, and Carrie, who was the director, was like just started telling everybody at the festivals that we had a feature,
A script.
and he was like, we have to do it. And I was like, what? Okay. Like we like literally were getting pulled into meetings at the festivals where I had to just improvise on the spot what the like feature was going to look like. And so I was like, okay, I guess this is happening. And like, I mean, fortunately we had, I remember Carrie and I were huddled at the festival being like, okay, so if we did this as a feature, what would it look like? We had like a 30-minute conversation, then we had to go to meetings. So that's how it happened. It's crazy. This business was wild. But yeah, like I ended up writing it on spec. So like that was a calculation that we made because, we had offers, actually, we were really lucky to have offers for people to, like, they were offering development money, but we wanted to keep our team together on some level, and that really, you give over control the second that you sort of sign anything over. So I made the decision to write it on spec, even though that was, and I wrote it, and we did end up, fortunately, in a position where we had like a bunch of people asking us to produce it. So that was just really fortunate.
Very cool. And it was quick too. I feel
It was very quick. Like it's very odd for things to be that quick. But yeah, we shot. I wrote the script on spec over like the next year, basically, and sold it in like 2019, and then we were going to shoot it in 2020, and then COVID happened. So yeah, but it ended up working out. But yeah, it was a very fast turnaround.
Totally. Danny, do you want to talk about like just
Hey, Imani.
what was going on? What did you?
Ours was also a quick turnaround. All right, a little background. I'd made like 10 shorts. I love the format of a short film. It's like so beautiful, and you can do so much that's unique in it, No one's trying to tell you what to do usually. So made so many shorts over the years, and then I helped out on a movie called Thunder Road, which is a big short to feature.
Another short to feature, yes.
Good one. So I was creative directing that, which basically meant like I was on monitor for the whole movie because Jim was acting in like almost every shot. So I was there giving notes to art and to camera, and kind of like it was great directing practice, And so I was finishing the short film Krista at the time. Right when we wrapped Thunder Road, I got the acceptance from South by Southwest 2018. What's up?
Good year.
And so it was like, I was like, okay. And then Ben Wiesner, producer extraordinaire of Thunder Road, was like, you're up next. Like, this is it. You've been kind of in the bullpen, getting it ready for years. And I said, all right. And so I took South by Southwest as my deadline. I'd never finished a feature script. I had tried and failed, and it was like, the Wright brothers trying to take off for years. And so it was like, I was like, I'm gonna finish a screenplay by the time this movie premieres at South by. So it was a piece of trash, but it was like something. And so cut to March, we were there for the premiere, and it did well, and it got a little like special jury award under Emergency, won the big prize, of course. And but it was cool to get it recognized, and it was like, if anyone gives a shit about this movie, let's tell them about the feature. And it got, along with the special jury thing, it also got the first like Vimeo Staff Pick Award, which meant this goes online tomorrow at noon as like a staff pick premiere. And I was very excited about that because I think like a movie is really born when it's available to everyone, And so we're walking, that night also Thunder Road won the big jury prize, like the best feature, whatever, at South by. So we're walking down the street to the closing night party or whatever, and it's Jim and it's Ben and myself, and there's belt buckle plaques or whatever, and we're all like, oh, what's next? And Jim goes, oh man, we should do a Kickstarter and announce the feature. We should announce it tomorrow. And we were like, oh, that'd be funny. And then we took like 10 steps and we're like, fuck, that's what we're doing that tonight, aren't we?
I guess
So
that's what
we
we're
stayed,
doing.
we like drank a couple Topo Chicos at the party and then scooted back home and we stayed up all night shooting a Kickstarter video and coming up with all the awards and stuff. It was all like the Thunder Road crew and stuff. So that I stayed up all night cutting it, blah, blah, blah. And it's a manic video. It's crazy. Everyone's like, huh? And it's me and it's Will and we're blathering and we're like, here's kind of what it's about. And so we got it done in time, got it approved by Kickstarter. So when the movie went live the next day, there was a link underneath that said support the feature. And so our turnaround was our lead actress, Shirley Chen, who's incredible, cast her in everything. She was going to college in August. So we were like, we got to shoot this before she goes to college. So we launched the Kickstarter off of a shitty rough draft of this movie in March, and we shot in August. And then it premiered Sundance 2020.
Amazing.
We slipped right in before the door closed on the world. So that's our kind of wild story.
You're really sticking to these deadlines that you had like established for yourself, and that were just kind of coming to you. And like, were you kind of like, I just have to like listen to my intuition with some of these things? Where you were like, okay, yeah, we're doing the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, I think the term that I like to use is like plant the flag. There's a lot of people, a lot of production companies out there who have 10 movies in development, 30 movies in development, and it's this kind of amorphous, like, like when we get a famous person, when we get a little financing, but if you tell people we're shooting this movie before Shirley goes to college, everyone's like, hold on a second. Like, you're going to make this? And we're like, we're going to make it with $5 or $10. We're going to go make this. And then suddenly it's easier to get on a moving train, you know? And then people go, well, we have 10 things in development. We were going to just throw this on the slate and let it collect dust with the rest of our movies. Or we can actually be a part of this thing that's real in August. And I found that is like a real energizing thing for people. So make it real, have the courage to say, if we get 50 grand, we're making it for 50 grand. And then that makes people kind of take it seriously in a way. You know, I mean, if you feel like you can make a good movie for 50 grand, you know, it's like, do not do that if you don't, feel like that's possible.
Yeah, if it's like Star Wars.
And we ended up, I think the budget of Beast Beast total was like 150 grand.
150 grand.
Amazing.
No, Thunder was a little more than that, but Beast, the one off of Krista,
Amazing. Karen, what did your kind of like in between look like?
I guess I just want to say it's great that your shorts were at these prestigious festivals. Just to make it less, or just to share my story, it's possible to like make a feature if your short doesn't get into those festivals. Because both Obvious Child and Yes God Yes, the shorts were rejected by Sundance, South by Southwest, and Tribeca. So they just premiered at very small film festivals. And for Yes God Yes in particular, we had the feature ready, because that was ready first. And it wasn't quite as quick as either of those experiences. So when my short, for Yes God Yes, the short, it did some festival circuits, and similarly, I was like, we got to get this online, we got to get this on Vimeo. We were lucky enough to have cast Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things just after the first season. So when it got picked up, when it was on Vimeo, it kind of went crazy. It was really funny because people were like, the Nancy from Stranger Things is masturbating, which is like gross, but like, and missing the point of my movie. But I think that really made it go viral. If you guys haven't seen it, it's very G-rated.
It's out there.
But what I just said makes it sound pornographic, and it's not.
No, it's like,
But
very
it went viral, and that is when it really like started to help in terms of getting notice. I got agents off of that, and then they put me in touch with people who ended up financing it. But in between, we did like the Tribeca Film Institute. I forget what it's called, but like it's their immersive lab during the festival where you go on like speed dating for pitching, and it was like 50 meetings in 2 days, and it was crazy. But we got a grant from that, and then we eventually, after a year of many, many meetings, got financing to do the feature. So it was a bit, even though the feature was ready to go, it was a bit of a marathon to get started in production.
Totally. Thank you. And then Morgan, what was kind of the in between for you? You talked about the FaceTime pitch. Yes. What did kind of the development and then the meetings look like to then like having the show on air?
Yeah, it was such an interesting time when that all happened because I was actually in Project Involved as well in the cinematography track.
Me too.
And so effectively overnight while I'm in this Project Involved thing, I like retired from cinematography to pivot to writing, directing, which is interesting. I remember I had a long conversation because I was really deep into my cinematography career. That was the plan for me. And the Bel Air thing, that was just fun stuff. It's like it was stuff that I just enjoyed making, and I'm not like I didn't go to film school. Like I bought my first camera when I was 18. You know what I mean? Just like I'm from Kansas City. You know what I mean? I shouldn't even be here probably. But anyway, all to say like so Bel Air goes viral, and I remember Ava DuVernay tweeted me, and she was like, "Hey, call me." And so I called her, and we had a long convo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we spoke for about an hour because like she was like she'd seen some of my cinematography work, and she had a show called Cherish the Day, and she was like, "I want you to shoot the show, right? But if I shoot the show, I can't do like the Bel Air thing."
Yeah.
But like 10 days earlier, if Ava would have been like, "Yo, shoot this," like of course I would have said yes. But like I have to like gamble on this new career trajectory as a writer director, and after that call, she said you probably won't get that chance again. That's what's kind of going on here, and so I decided to let cinematography go and all in writing, directing, learning, reading, just anything I can do. I was a baby writer, you know what I mean? And so we went right into development for Bel Air. And then COVID happens, and we have to wait, unfortunately. But we were one of the first COVID shows, and that was really hard directing that pilot, because that was my first pilot I directed, but it was also like in COVID times, you know what I mean? And so like, directing with the mask and it was just a mess and people going down and the show having to go down because people getting sick. It was wild, but we got through it and it's doing well. So.
Yes, for sure. Awesome. I would love to know too about just the conversations that you all had during these processes when people are calling, meetings are getting scheduled, people are maybe trying to mess with your vision. How did you kind of navigate those conversations? Was there any like pushback that you had to deal with of directing your first pilot, of take this development money so we can tell you what to do? How did you kind of navigate those?
Yeah, so I mean, we had a few of those meetings where we, took it to people and they were like, "We'll pay you, but like, can it be?" I don't know if anybody here has seen the movie, but like, the movie's basically like super bad if all the characters were not white and couldn't just like be friends with the police. like everything's fine. It's like, no, actually, it's about like a group of men of color who like, so there's two black guys and one Latino guy. I'm Mexican, and they find an unconscious white girl on their floor, and they're like on the first night of spring break, and she's unconscious, and it just doesn't look good. And they're like, "What do I do?" And so the premise was always that the short film was always like the moment that they find her in their house, and they're like, "Who the fuck is this? What do we do? This just looks really bad." And it's it's a dark comedy thriller, and but like having people being like, "Can it be like less political? Can it be more of like a party movie? Can we pivot more into the party movie?" And we're like, no, like it's not the point of the movie. And I think those initial sort of conversations were very revealing that if we wanted to get it done the way we wanted to do it, I had to write it on spec. And that was like, I mean, obviously anyone who's written a spec, like it is a huge opportunity cost. You have no idea if it's gonna work out. But I did it. We took the gamble, and we having a script. It was very helpful to have the short film to be like, this is the tone and this is the script. Like, you know what you're getting. It's harder to fuck with it. So, I mean, obviously we were in a very lucky position of like having a little bit of heat behind the short film already. And then I was able to like, I was lucky that I got on the blacklist that year. So my script got on the blacklist, and then that like really launched us into our like meetings, where it's a very cool position to be in as a writer who's used to being like the person who's pitching, to have people pitch to you why they should do your film. It's such a good feeling, guys. Rare feeling. But that was very cool, and we did run into a bunch of that still, where people were like, clearly had a fully different. They're like, well, I just don't understand why they wouldn't just call 911 right away. And it's like, if you don't understand that, then you don't probably fit this production. So we ended up going with Temple Hill, who was funny just because, like, you know, they had made like the Twilight movies, and they had made like a bunch of like more like YA type movies, and they were really eager to make something that was more like mature and like more like rated R, and but also something, you know, unique. And so they were really excited to work with us, and they fully understood. And it was really that moment of like finding people who had our backs, and that we were just really, it's just, you have to be really discerning, because I think that there were people who were really exciting to work with, who were like, it's sort of like you have to say no to people. It hurts to say no to people, but like you have to protect your baby, you know? So we had to do that, and it worked out. Like we ended up going with Amazon, and it was great.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. Anyone else? Dan, you kind of like controlled your own future.
Yeah. The term greenlight yourself comes to mind. Because then like there's no stopping it. You know what I mean? If you kind of are like, I can do this. I wrote, directed, edited, sound designed, and did the score for Beast Beast.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, that's gonna cost no money, you know? Those things. So it's like, well, we could save a couple dollars on those things. So I will say what's really cool about all of this, and what's cool about this festival and all this, the proof of concept, a sample of whether it's one-to-one of what the short is to what the movie, to what the feature is, or if it's tonally the same, it's the best thing you can have. Because what happens is you're dealing with a lot of people with, let's not say no imagination, but with a different kind of imagination than you have. And when you can just say, here is the thing, you know? If you're a chef, you're gonna go pitch the best meal ever, but if you're like, taste this, you know what I mean? Like that is the best thing you can do, because anytime anyone asked about, well, what's this gonna feel like? What's gonna sound like? Just watch a short. Check it out. You like the short, right? Like, oh yeah, it was great, but you know, and you're like, well, it's just gonna be that, but more. And it's gonna like, trust us, you know? And so we kind of created the lane for ourselves. And I have to say it again, Benjamin Wiesner is the name, because he is like the most wonderful human being. He was my best friend for 10 years before this. He was a mere poetry student at Emerson College when I met him. And but he carried this movie on his shoulders. He is a producer who produces from like a human standpoint and wants to just like make things that are like great for everyone involved, and also is the most courageous creator. Like, I don't know another human being who would go with me to stay at my parents' house in Georgia for 5 weeks for no money and pre-produce a movie. Sure. And on day one of Beast Beast, we had $12,000 in the bank account. Ooh. And I found this out after we wrapped. But Ben was like, yeah, we had all this money promised to come in, but it was like, when we started, it was like he and I were putting flights on our credit cards and stuff like that to get people in town and stuff. But it really was like, it changes the whole conversation. Like you're saying, having people come to you, it's like, when you tell people we're going to go make this movie, it changes everything, because you're not at their whim. You know what I mean? So to me, like that, if I have advice, it's that. It's like, find the thing that you can do and make it happen, you know?
For sure.
But then again, I'm like the, you know, person with holes in my shoes on this panel. Like, y'all worked with Amazon and with like Will Smith, you know, it's like, so it's like, that's a version, that's a path. I think all y'all have like wonderful paths as well, you know, so.
I just want to add that, like, so our film Emergency was like, Thunder Road won the like feature when we won the short that year, and Thunder Road was like the sort of like, we kept hearing like your team basically talking about how you made the movie, and we were so inspired by that. We were like, if we can't get anybody to make this movie, we will make this movie in our backyards for like no money at all. It actually like your Thunder Road actually impacted how I wrote the original draft of the movie, because I was like, we want it. I wrote it basically as a play. I was like, it's basically like the smallest possible version, which is something I should probably have added. That we wrote the smallest possible version, which made it super appealing to producers, because they were like, oh, you can make this bigger, which is always a note that you want, instead of we need to put this in one room, like, you know. So anyway, just want to add, like, you guys were so inspiring to us.
Oh, that's great to hear.
I love it. Amazing. Yeah. Give it up for that. Karen, how were those meetings for you? You were
Are we talking pre-production or like?
yeah, like the financiers you were getting connected to. Was there any like?
Yeah.
Maybe
So
not. Yeah.
I will say, like, at least my experience as a female filmmaker, both working in the studio and the independent end now, the most important thing as a director is to like try your hardest to remain the arbiter of taste for the film, which is like really difficult because everybody wants to be involved and feel like they're involved. And sometimes that's great if you get producers like you're saying, Ben. He sounds amazing. And people who are really genuinely collaborative and like serving that taste. That's ideally what you want. But I do feel like a lot of filmmaking is sort of fighting for that control, which is very exhausting. Probably like I had a child and I was in labor for like 48 hours. This is more exhausting than that was, because it goes on forever and it's sort of constant. Obviously, the film, final cut and it goes out into the world and it's over. But it's very exhausting. But I will say, I think holding on to your vision is the most important thing you can do, and it definitely is a battle. And of course, you're gonna have to, depending on the financiers or the studio, give some things away. But you have to pick, what's more important to you, and what you're willing to let go. So that is something that is difficult, and it's good knowing going into it. If you're doing it independent, you get a lot more control. And obviously, if you're financing a short film yourself, I think that's the most control I've ever had over something. And that is fun. And now I want to make a short again.
Yeah.
Because it's also what you were saying, Danny. Like, it is the best way to get tone across. There's so many like pitch meetings I've been in where I'm like, everyone's like, "What's the tone? What's the tone?" And you can talk about tone forever. Like you can literally like act out a scene, and they're still like, "What's the tone?" So truly, like even with a short, they're still like, "Well, is it going to be the same?" But yeah, I will say people are very fear-based these days, and the more answers you can give them, or better yet, show them, is definitely gonna help.
Totally. That's why I hear it too. So that is good to hear too. That you're like, okay, you just got off a Netflix show. Or you just directed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so you're like, I want to create a short now, and like kind of go back to.
Yeah, I mean, when you direct, I directed some episodes of Nobody Wants This, which just came out on Netflix. Thank you. But that's totally different. An episodic director has very little creative control, which actually was amazing. Sometimes to just like an editor of mine told me, like, the director of a feature is like the guardian and the parent, where the actors come in, they're like the drunk uncles at Christmas. They get to like come in and have fun and then just like fuck off. And you're stuck with all the responsibility. And I feel like that's sort of what it's like to do episodic directing. You get to be the fun drunk uncle.
Morgan, your thoughts on that?
100% correct.
Yeah.
No, I'm not shooting a short. I was just saying I want to do a short now because you get to be in charge.
Yeah.
And I miss that.
Totally. Yeah.
Could you say the question?
Yeah, for you, I would say coming into a studio run kind of like production and just kind of coming into it as a new pilot director, what were the conversations that you were facing there? How did that even happen? Were they like, oh yeah, let's do it, or was there like,
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the benefit. I'm writing my first feature right now. I haven't shot a feature yet, but I will say though, I have a really big body of work prior to
Yeah.
Bel Air, because again, Bel Air wasn't my first short, and so I think having that body of work, I'll kind of come back to the point I'm trying to make here, gave the studio an understanding of what I'm able to deliver. Right, and that was really, really important. So there was no pushback when we were making my deal for it at all. Yeah, they were very inviting and wanted my voice on the pilot, which is great. Obviously, when you start getting micro and you get down to the brass tacks of casting and all of that, it's, in television, it's very collaborative. Everybody has an opinion. Your fellow producer group, the studio, the network, there's just like a lot of different tiers to clear in order to get anything done. And so I think my whole thing in that process was just keep your fucking cool.
totally?
Is the big thing. Just like, you know what? Just take a beat. Don't be reactive to anything because those buttons will be pushed. You know what I mean? They're gonna be pushed. They will. And that's fine though. It's like everybody, you said something that really resonated. It's like everybody wants to feel involved and have their thumbprints on it. And I want that too. You know what I mean? And it's like I made it very clear to everyone that it's like, this is now ours. That's the only way it'll be successful is it has to be like, what's the word? Ubiquitous. Like, I don't want people to think of Bel Air and think of me. I want it to be this like thing, you know what I mean? Because that means it's successful. You know what I mean? It's more than just a short, right? And Jabari is the face of the show, and he should be the face of the show, and I love that. And Coco Jones and everything these kids have been able to do, it's like that's what the whole thing was all about to me. And that's what I told the cast is like, listen, like, I want you to come in. I don't care if you do a backflip off that wall. Like, believe in the choices. So that, like, from a bigger perspective, but also a micro perspective for me, it's just inviting that collaboration in and being secure in what my vision is. And I think people felt that energy and really got on board with the ship that I was steering.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's great. Dropping gems here.
Can I just clarify? I also am very collaborative and want it to be collaborative. I do think it's important sometimes if there's too many cooks, you lose the sort of tone. But you were collaborative, I'm sure, but as the creator, got to make the final decisions.
Yeah, especially on the pilot. It's like once you're in series, it's the drunk uncle party.
Yeah.
So funny.
Right? It's like, because you've got to deliver a show, and it's like, so you've got directors come in, some episodes are good, some episodes aren't, you know what I mean? It's just like part of the machine. But yeah, for that pilot, one of the big things that I was really like pressing on was the cast. It's like, you just have to get the cast right or none of it else. No, it's all kind of for nothing. And there was one particular casting decision where like it got pretty tense. And it was like coming down to the wire and, nobody agreed with me on this one casting decision. And, letters are being written to the network. I mean, it was like a thing. It was respectful, but it was tense because everybody wants to, we're stakeholders here. Everybody wants to make sure it's successful and we need it to be successful. But there are those points I think you reach in the process where it's like, what are those hills to die on?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is a hill. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I have to die on that hill. Like, we need this to be successful. And sometimes you have to tell somebody what is needed for this thing to work. And it's really helpful to be backstopped by your proof of concept and say, like, I never use this card, but like, let's be clear of why we're even here. And it's this piece of art. You know what I mean? It's not me. It's this thing that we're all rallying around here. So it's like, if there's any sort of confusion or we're getting off the beaten path, so to speak, let's go back to the source of this, right? And then we can back into where we land in terms of a decision.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just a couple more before we head to the audience. Get your questions ready. Both of you, Morgan and Karen, navigating kind of like virality and online and kind of something just going into the world and you're taking and receiving whatever comes back. Navigating that, is there anything that you would have like done different? Any like learning things through that where you're like, oh, whoa, especially if that came up again?
Specifically with it going viral, you mean?
Yeah, of like capitalizing on that moment and how you moved forward with that.
I mean, the good thing for me was I had the feature ready, and I will say, like, you know, these two really quickly acted on their, like, turned on a dime and were able to bullshit in the best way possible that they had something, which is a lot of what this is actually, is convincingly bullshitting people. But I think it is good if you're releasing anything, a short, a feature, whatever, to at least have an idea of what your next thing is or have stuff ready. Because you never know when that opportunity is going to come knocking, and you don't want to be like, unless you can, you know, act on your feet as quickly as these two. So that, I will say, is something to be ready for in case something happens. And with Yes God Yes, the short, yeah, we put it on Vimeo, and then it got like 3 million views in like a couple weeks. And this was in 2017 or 18, I can't remember. And then it like trended on Reddit, which was really funny. My favorite thing was there's the moment in the short where Natalia takes a bite of a Cheeto puff and just eats half of it and puts it back, and someone in the comments was like, who the fuck eats half a Cheeto and puts it back in the bowl? There were some really amazing comments, so that was enjoyable. But yeah, so we were definitely ready for that, thank God. And I think the way we got Natalia was just, one of the producers had worked with her on another short and just happened to have her email, and we cold emailed her, and she read the script and got back to us. So another like learning lesson I think from all of this is just take your chances. Don't be afraid to like stick your neck up there or out there. Don't obviously annoy the shit out of someone who's not getting back to you, but like don't be afraid to go up to someone or email someone, because you never know. Like that changed, you know, the course of my life pretty much. So that's about it.
Totally. Awesome. And then navigating the festival circuit for our friends over here. Any kind of learning moments from that you would maybe pass on to filmmakers who are maybe like also going to the festival circuit, of like what you said about dressing up to the award show.
Yeah, don't assume that no one's gonna care at all. I mean, like, we cared, but I don't know. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel like I've had to train myself out of the default state of like, no one cares but me about, like, I don't know. I feel like I had to do a lot of like, oh, when you do this job and you do something that you believe in, sometimes it connects with people in a real way. And like, that's very exciting. It's always very shocking to me when that actually happens. But yeah, like, I think, you know, we're all here because we want to make things that connect with other human beings. And like, I think, you know, if you have something interesting to say, and yeah, it's very cheesy to say believe in yourself, but yeah, believe in yourself, because like no one else is going to believe in you but you. You've got to, I do think that a lot of this industry really is, like you were saying, like just being able to think on your feet and just sort of like convince other people that you have a vision and you can execute it. And like, really, it's a lot of, I think that that's the thing I learned, is that it's getting people excited, and like, you have to be excited. And like, if you're excited and your idea is like good, people want to participate in that, and they want to like lend their skills to you. And yeah, and like what you were saying, that like having the next step of the process as a goal is essential. Like just being like, we're doing this by this point. Like people love a deadline. Mm-hmm. People love like a certainty, because certainty in this industry is so rare.
And I think you said like people are very fear-based who you're talking to, who are unfortunately the people who are like decision makers. It's very bizarre situation, but I think from my point of view, you need to compensate by being like extra fearless, you know, in the face of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very strange dynamic. But I would say at a festival, like, talk to everybody, like go to people's screenings, go up after, talk to them, tell them what you're up to, like have this thing. 2018 South by Southwest was like, it's such a phenomenal year for, like, Shiva Baby was there. a short called Caroline that Celine Held and Logan George made. Agua Viva, which, write that one down. That's one of my favorite short films ever. Alexa Limhaus. Agua Viva. It's incredible. But what else was it? I mean, like Emergency it was like so cool to be surrounded by these movies. Kira Burning, you guys know Laurel Parmet? She's like one of my favorite filmmakers. There were so many shorts there that I was just like, oh my God, they programmed our little thing amongst these, you know? It really is like, be humbled, you know? Go talk to people. Like that's the beauty of these things. So.
Yeah, and
We met at South by.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like short films festivals specifically are great places to meet other people who have not yet like necessarily done the next thing in their career, and like they are eager to collaborate with you. And I feel like short film festivals are my favorite festivals.
Yeah. But you all know how hard it is. Like that's the thing. Like you've all been in your own version of the trenches, you know. So you're coming out and you've reached this kind of point of maturity, you know, creatively or just process wise, you know. So it's like you have a lot that relates to other people who are in that same situation. So go talk to them. Go make some friends.
Awesome. We're going to open it up for audience questions. So if you have a question, you can like come actually to this corner right here. We'll have a volunteer with a microphone to take your questions.
Nice. Fastest one goes.
Can we get the micro? Yep. You can say your name too.
Hey, hey. Check. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Your stories are very inspiring. And I want to ask, in the case of you guys, it was like an unexpected, successful from short to feature. But let's say if you originally want to do from short to feature, what would be your advice in that case?
Yeah, well, I guess I can speak to...
sorry to interrupt. To maximize the chances to that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is... You do on some level have to be lucky. That's always going to be the case in this industry. But so, like, since Emergency worked out, I feel like I am drawn to short films just as like, I don't know, it's a nice thing to have a proof of concept. So I wrote and directed. I co-wrote with my husband, and then I directed and he produced a short film called Please Hold that like was it's a sci-fi dark comedy, like Kafka-esque sort of movie, and like I that was my first time directing, and we had an idea to make that into a feature. And so right now we're in the middle of that process. We're like, I'm doing the same process that I did with Emergency, which is we're writing the feature on spec. But the short film, we were again very lucky that the short film got nominated for an Oscar. Which was great. But I feel like the thing about like our short film, we got rejected from all the major festivals. We got into Florida Film Festival, we won there, and like that was the one thing that got us qualified for the Oscars. And so like I will say that making a feature from a short film that like it needs to either have heat from like a sort of award standpoint in my experience, or virality. Like it kind of feels like it's one or the other, because people respect like the accolades, and people respect like the public attention and what the people want to see. So I do think focusing on like if you want to go the festival route, that's a perfectly legitimate route. If you want to go the like getting attention on social media, you guys are probably better than me at that. I don't know how to do that. I would love advice on that.
I would say just make it a very good short film.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people say, oh, I have this feature I want to make. Let me just like do like a scene from it, and like that'll give people enough. But like, and then it just feels like a very incomplete experience watching a short, because it just feels like a means to an end, you know? So if you make the short have what's special, what's going to be special in the feature, and it works as a standalone short film, that's what I'd say, focus on that.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you. Can you pass it to our next?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. I guess just listening to all of your stories, it seems like timing was like a big part of your success. So I was just wondering at what point in the process you guys had representation, or maybe even specifically a lawyer, to make sure that as you were transitioning from doing something like somewhat independently, that the project didn't fall apart just because of not having good reps in one way or another.
That's a really good question. When the Bel Air thing. What's up?
Oh, no, sorry. She was wondering.
Oh, okay.
Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when Bel Air went viral, Westbrook wanted to get into a deal right away with me, and I had to tell him like, "Yo, like, we need to pump the brakes." Like, you know what I mean? Like, and at that time, again, like, cinematography was what I was doing. I had representation on that side of things, but in terms of writing, directing, that was a whole other thing. And every agency in this town wanted to meet and sign me, and so I had to take those meetings, and I had to tell them, "Hey, I need to pause until I've got my business together." And so I think we were talking a couple of questions ago about like things in hindsight, and I wish I would have taken even a little more time, if I'm being honest. Not just even with the business stuff, just to enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's like you make something, I don't care if it's 10 minutes or 2 hours, you made something. So just like take that moment, enjoy it. I wish I'd have gone, my pops, he lives in Florida. I should have flown down there and just spent a week with him. I wish I would have done that, but instead I was in this town doing meetings. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'll answer your question here in a second. But to go back to like, I guess, whatever advice, I don't know if I have advice to share. But I would just say like, try to just enjoy some of these things and these moments, because you don't get them back. And I look up and I'm like, damn, 5 years has passed. Like, what? That's crazy. But yeah, I think it's okay perfectly. Like, if you have a viral moment or you catch some heat at a festival, take those meetings, and it's like, don't feel the need to rush into a decision because like the town wants you to make a decision yesterday. It's like, nah, like be on your own time,
Yeah, definitely don't rush. And you can get a lot of pressure to go fast. But I will say, before I had representation, and if you're in that similar boat, like if you're asked to sign something that gives away your creative control or your ownership of your work, try to find someone who's a lawyer or has some legal experience to just look over it. Because I've been in that boat before, and you want to make sure your ass is covered in case something happens. And you don't want someone else owning your script or your idea forever and not doing anything with it. So, it's obviously ultimately up to you and the decision you want to make for your work, but just take care of yourself and protect your work for sure.
Can I say one final thing on that point? Because that's a really good point. Because there's like the creative, there's your creative rights that are at stake with these deals, but it's also like there's a lot of very, very specific fiscal implications, right? Like, I probably shouldn't be saying this. Y'all ain't putting this online, are y'all?
This part that you're about to
Okay.
say.
Long story
your
short, so
phones
like,
away.
Could
Put
have
your
been way
phones
more
away.
honest if this wasn't being recorded.
it's like if a studio wants your project, like you own the IP. There's a price for that IP, right? And so that's another benefit I think about making a short. It's like, yes, it's to like get in the door, but also it's like there's money to be made because you own that IP. I'm sure when you wrote that on spec, you sold that. There was money to be made eventually. So it's like it was an investment ultimately, right? And I don't know your deal. I'm not asking you, but I'm just saying like, just keep that in mind as well, because they will try to pressure you and, oh, we'll give you the stars and the moon, et cetera. It's like, well, what about that money?
What about the money?
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
That's
And
what my uncle said to me before I signed something.
100%. My attorney, they, when I got into my long form, they were missing something in that long form that we needed, right? But you have the leverage, and you don't want to be like a jerk about it. You want to be a good steward, but at the same time, like, we work our butts off to make this art. Like, we should be paid,
Yeah, lawyers. lawyers probably, I would say, get a lawyer first. If you don't have an agent or manager, your lawyer will protect you. Like, essential.
I just want to speak to the first part. I don't have a lot to say about the second part of your question. Clearly, like, the management did not make a difference in my situation. But it was, to speak to timing of things, you know, I think we all kind of benefited from stuff. But I think we're also ignoring the lead up, because I spent a decade making short films, you know, and to relative, like, successes. You know, I had a short film go viral in 2011. You know, I was not ready to do the feature. To do a feature at that point. That was an experimental thing, and suddenly, like, oh, there's that, and then people are calling, they're asking for, like, kind of bullshitty, like, commercial versions of the thing that you did, and I'm like, yeah, no. You know, that short film was a short film, you know, and I think that's okay too, you know. So to think about timing, I think of what's beneath the surface leading up to being able to actually capitalize on these opportunities that kind of feel like they just exploded in our face, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess your original question was also like at what point we had management and like representation, and I mean, I think that there's something. It's interesting because like I had representation like pretty early on. I won a film festival competition with a script that I wrote, and then I got like reps at CAA off of that. But I do feel like even if you have representation, you still have to, like, especially in your early career, like, I felt like I ended up moving agencies the moment that I could, because I felt like, I mean, my agents were good agents, but they didn't understand the sort of thing I wanted to do. As I said, I'm Mexican, and I kept getting jobs that were like, the only reason it was sent to me was because it had like Mexican characters in it, and I was like, this has nothing to do with any of the tone that I'm interested in working in, like the genres I'm interested in working in. Like, it felt like they didn't see me. So just because you have reps doesn't mean you necessarily, like, you may have to also do the work of making sure you have the right reps who really see you, which is really hard to do when you're in that early stage of your career and you're just happy to have reps at all. Like, it can be the moment you have them. I mean, my advice would be like, if you can get them, you can get them. Get your first agent or manager, because then you can always get another one more easily once you have one. But you got to find the people who work best for you, and you might have to say no to people who don't see you.
Thank you. Great question. We can pass on to the next person.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experiences. My question is, I really like what you guys are mentioning about the spectrum between control and collaboration. And I was curious about your thoughts in terms of the drafting process of the screenplay. Like, what number of drafts do you keep hidden? What number of drafts do you start opening it up? And just about your drafting processes with this spectrum of control collaboration.
I would say I'm always interested in this question too with other filmmakers. It's different for everyone, and some people I've read things where people are like, oh, I just spit out the script in like a week, and it's like the best. It like won an awards, and it doesn't always happen. I'm really slow with my writing process, which I'm trying to work on. But I will say, I think opening it up to feedback and notes, especially if you're not co-writing with someone, is really important to do early on. Otherwise, you're just like in this world by yourself, and that no man is an island, right? So I think getting notes early on from people you trust, and even people you don't trust. You don't have to take every note, but it's good to get perspective, I think, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That's very well said. Like, that feedback loop is crucial. You know, I remember when I was like starting out, I was so insecure about my writing. You know what I mean? It's like sharing it or like getting a bad note. I'm like, oh no, like I was so defensive. Like now, like I rush to finish that draft to get that feedback loop, because when you're in that fort, like what's the saying about the trees in the forest?
I haven't heard that one.
That one. And it's true. It's true. It's like you get to pay, you get to page 110, 120, and it's just like, what is my movie? You know what I mean? But you know, everybody's process is different. I know some people who are really fast on the page, who spit something out, it's just like, fuck, like this is really, really strong. But you know, some people take the time, they, you know, take their good sweet time, you know? But it all depends, man. I gotta say this. I was telling you I wanted to scream when you were talking about the reps. I won't scream it. They're not gonna do it for you. They're not gonna fucking do it for you.
They're not.
They're not going to do it for you. Thank you. They're not going to do it for you. Like, that's a very common story right there. And it's like, you know, I think before you have reps, it's like, oh, CAA is going to change my life. WME is going to change my life. And it's just like, no, they're going to make money off your ass. Like, and they're going to help. I love my reps. I love my reps. But at the same time, they ain't going to do it for you. So, like, I wish somebody would have told me that.
Totally, yeah. We try and instill a
I'm
little
fucking
bit.
up your question.
That's
Go ahead, someone else.
There's definitely this element of steering. You have to steer the ship, yeah, as a filmmaker.
You gotta have a vision.
Yeah, I guess about the writing process. Yeah, everybody's different, which is an unhelpful answer. But I tend to do a lot of like pre-thinking and outlining before I start script at all. So usually when I go to script, it takes me like not that long at all once I'm actually writing. I write just like, I usually write from end. I write the ending first because the ending is your philosophy of what the whole script is about. And then I write the beginning. The beginning is usually the hardest part for me. I don't know. I write the end first. And anyway, but I'm in a really lucky position of my husband and I are both like writers, and so we collaborate with each other like half the time. So I have a built-in like turn to him and bounce ideas off of him, whether he likes it or not. I'm like, hey, I need to pitch you this entire movie right now. So yeah, I do think that having somebody who you trust to be super honest with you is important. I have a few of the people, like, they're not all writers. Like, I have a friend who's an editor, and I have a friend who's a cinematographer, and I often will just like, I'll kind of walk them through a thing that I'm working on, and they give me like a way different perspective than I would get from a screenwriter, which is also really nice. I think like cinematographers ask really cool questions. There's, I don't know, and editors like really have a sense of the rhythm of everything, and so they can give you. I think like for the writers out there, don't feel like you only have to talk to other writers. Talk to everybody else too.
Definitely don't just talk to other writers.
That's really well said. I just to speak to the writing of Beast Beast, which again was the first feature script I ever finished. I just basically my like cheat was, what if I just wrote like 3 30-page stories, and then would that be a feature? And then what if I just like mash them together and see if it's a movie? And that's what I did. And every single day, all the way up to the edit, I was like, is this a movie? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Wow.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you for your question. We got time for, one more question.
Awesome. Hi, guys. I'm Veronica Macari. I'm a writer, producer, actor. And, you know, you guys have done incredible things, and there was a lot of work that came before you guys kind of popped off. I would love to hear about the almosts, the projects that maybe you started writing and then you abandoned, the things that you thought were going to hit and they didn't hit. The things that you just lost interest in, or people were like, it's not good, and you're like, I agree. What is the other side of the medal of all this amazing success? Because I feel like I think many of us maybe feel that, oh well, mine didn't hit, so I'm not gonna be where you're at right now.
I don't know about you guys, but I didn't feel like there's once or twice that I've played to like, oh, this is the kind of thing that people want, you know, and it just has not fucking worked, you know. It's like, Morgan, I like your story because you're like, I don't know, Bel Air, wouldn't that be funny, like to your buds, like let's just make this little thing, and it comes out, and you were probably just like, whoa, what is happening? Like this thing is popping off. It's like I like hearing the lessons of people who are like, this is what they want. They want a genre. They want this thing, and they make it, and it just falls flat. You know what I mean? Because I think it gives us the right lesson, which is make something that you like feel passionate about and feel great about, and not just trying to chase the thing. You know?
I think the flip side of that though is when you have like an idea that you love you know, and you'd want to exist whether you made it or not. And like, it's got all the goods and you take it out and it doesn't get bought. Like, there's one I took out that, yeah, it's special. It's really special. And at some point, you know, I don't know if it's gonna be a graphic novel or it might take a different form, maybe a podcast or something like that. But it's something that I spent, it was the hiatus after season 2. Yeah. Put months of development, put my own bread up for some of the development. Like, we made these like cool magazines that we took all over the town. It was such a fly ass fucking pitch. The story was bomb. I had great talent attached to it. My producers were sick. And we took that thing out and they loved it, but they were like, how could we fucking make this? It's an insane idea and I hate to be cryptic about it, but I'm actually taking it to Audible to see if they fuck with it, but we'll see. It hurts. That one hurt.
For sure.
But then you just like, fine, whatever. Like, you made it, you on to the next thing, and if it's meant to exist, just keep going. You know, it's like I would have made it, like I had fun making it, you know, and I think that's what it's all about. And I think you made the point there. It's just like, I only want to work on things where I feel like I add value and that are fun, you know, and if it's not, if you have those things, then it's like, if it doesn't get bought or no one sees it, that's okay. You just keep going.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of just the experience of working in this industry and being an artist in general is like, I worked as a TV writer, and I've also worked I work now primarily more as a feature film screenwriter, and success in the feature film industry as a screenwriter specifically looks like an iceberg of a career. You have an iceberg. This is the amount of stuff that gets made. This is the amount of stuff that you got paid to write, which is successful, but is not going to make it to screen, which is like, that's the reality of how this, if you work for the studio system, that's how it works. And like, that's always the most heartbreaking thing to me is like, you do end up getting a little bit like, your heart gets hard. It's like, it really is like you keep, I don't know, getting into relationships and they keep falling apart or something. You're like, it's like, so it's heartbreaking. You end up getting a little like, you know, hardening your heart against it. You're like, if something good happens, it's a surprise. A little. So I would say anyone who's going into feature film business, I mean, it's a good career, but it's also like, it can be really heartbreaking. Like I got my fucking dream job. I can't say what it is, but like I'm a huge video game nerd, and I got to adapt one of my favorite video games of all time for like a huge producer, and it just didn't happen. Just because that's how this industry works. And so that's like heartbreaking to me. The fact that success is heartbreaking is like, that's just how it is. And I do think that like, you're right though. Like that's part of it. And it's the sort of like, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Like I am glad that I had that experience. It was so cool to meet all of the like people that, like I got to meet the writers of my favorite video game. Like I got to like sit in rooms and talk to them, and that was beautiful. And it didn't happen, but like that was what was special about that. So you know, that's that project to me that I can't talk about is, yeah.
What if I was like nothing?
Everything happened.
I don't have anything that's no, almost everything. So much, and I love this question because it's really grounding and. Let's, you know, all you guys know that like this isn't just success and easy. It's incredibly hard. And I agree with what you said, Danny. Like, don't start chasing what you think people want. I've done that before. Everything's cyclical. Just write what you want to write. If it's good, people are gonna want it. But also, they'll end up wanting it again. Like I've heard, like no more dystopic YA stuff, and then. This like Netflix show, The Uglies, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but I assume that that's what it's about to some degree. But like, so my point is like, that's some like agenda that they're supposed to talk about, but like actually like just write what you think is important because that's going to be the strongest project for you and the most passionate.
Totally. I do love that question. Oh, thank you. But I do want to end on a happy note. So, what are you excited about? What can we look forward to for you as we're following your paths?
Well, fingers crossed that things get greenlit, I guess. But like, yeah, I'm working on some pretty exciting. I'm working on developing a show for Hulu, and I'm working on a feature that I'm not allowed to talk about. That would be really, really exciting if it happens. So, fingers crossed.
I'm very tired because I wrapped a feature film 3 days ago. Also kick-started because I was tired of waiting again at the next stage of my career. So just wrap that and feeling really ready to get my little editing claws on it and do that. But also I just wanted to say to all y'all, I know everyone is has their specific questions for things and stuff. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. I'll be in the lobby or whatever. If anyone is hey, the boring stuff of how much did you ask for in this, or how long is I'm happy to talk details and stuff like that if anyone is interested.
In the lobby.
Or outside. It's warmer outside. The lobby's cold.
It is cold. I have no idea what I'm doing next, honestly. I have a lot of things I'm trying to get started, meaning I've been working on them for a long time and I'm trying to get them produced. I like to say irons in the fire, but I was speaking to someone recently and they're I call them irons in the freezer now. And that's sort of how I feel about them. I know. Honestly, yeah, it's really, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm currently finding it very difficult in today's climate to get things made. Even as someone who just directed some episodes of one of the most successful currently Netflix shows, it's still really hard to get things made. And that's not to deter you. It's always hard. It's always been hard. I think we can all agree. So hopefully you'll see more from me soon, but I currently have no idea what it'll be. And I'm still smiling.
Yes.
Because I'm possessed. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I'm writing my first feature right now for Amazon, which is exciting. So I just came in from Portland, so that's why I'm all zany and weird, because I've been pretty sleepless the past week writing that. I'm also developing another show for Peacock. It's a half-hour comedy, half-hour workplace comedy. So we're on hiatus for season 3 of Bel Air. Hopefully we get picked up for 4, fingers crossed. And I just sold a children's book.
Ooh.
So yeah. So I met my publisher in New York a couple weeks ago, and we're pretty far into it. So that should drop sometime next year. But the thing I really wanted to talk about is I shot a short earlier this year, and it's gonna come out in a month.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I'm very, very excited about that. We're just gonna drop it.